everybody, it's me, 32x1000. I'm here to talk about unlicensed games. Now this is going to be a 3-part, so I'm only going to do the first part and then I'm going to do the second part. I know I did a Sonic the Hedgehog review and I've only uploaded part 1, so you're just going to have to wait for part 2. Let's start. Now, each part 1, 2, and 3, the first part that I'm doing right now is going to be on TENGEN. TENGEN is the most widely known unlicensed company in the world. And one of the most famous games they ever made, Tetris, which is the better of the two from the licensed and the unlicensed version. So, what did TENGEN start out as? Well, TENGEN is actually disguised as Atari. Yeah, Atari owns TENGEN with all means possible. So what do you have to do? What did TENGEN do? Well, TENGEN made TENGEN Tetris. And so as soon as that came out, Nintendo sued TENGEN. And the reason they sued them was not because they made TENGEN Tetris, was because there are only a limit of 5 NES games in a month. And TENGEN made one extra one, making it 6 games in a month. So then it was law and ordered for every single TENGEN Tetris to be removed from the shelves until further notice. And then all the licensed versions were put on there, and the licensed version isn't near as good. I mean, it's like not near as good as the other one. So then TENGEN, of course, made a compromise with Nintendo. Making this compromise gave them the ability to make as many of them as they want. But Nintendo must approve them before they can be put onto the store shelves. So TENGEN is considered a real game company now and does not make unlicensed games. Well, TENGEN actually ended not too long ago, so there's no more TENGEN anywhere in the world. So while TENGEN was making all these games, they got a little idea that was the worst idea probably ever. They started taking Master System games and porting them to the NES, such as Shinobi and Fantasy Zone. These games were then ported, and these are the only 2 that I know of. If they would have ported Alex Kidd to the NES, that would have been one of the coolest things ever. But they didn't. So then Sega got all mad, and then Sega wanted Tetris. For some reason, then Sega brought up the fact that they wanted Tetris. They wanted that Tetris for their own. And they did not succeed. They did not get Tetris. Instead, they got Columns, which is like one of the worst games ever. So, while this is going on, TENGEN is still making all these extra games. Then somebody else wants to get into the fun. And, well, that little someone is Sachin. Sachin is another unlicensed company that was jealous of TENGEN, and so wanted to have a little competition with TENGEN. So they are not considered a real game company. That's why there are no Sachin games on the NES list on any Wikipedia. So they made games like Hellfighter and Jurassic Boy 2. I repeat, Jurassic Boy 2, which is a Sonic the Hedgehog hack, and also there was no Jurassic Boy 1. So Sachin was making all these hacks of other games. Well, Nintendo didn't make a big deal out of it. Nintendo just said, let them do that. If TENGEN can do it, they can do it. So Nintendo also got half the payments of TENGEN. So Sachin was also getting half the payments of Nintendo and TENGEN. So Sachin was in the lead with the video game rivalry. And while this was going on, Sachin had no other choice but to make all these weird games. And I have no idea what they were thinking. So Sachin started making hacks and hacks and hacks of all these other games and other games that TENGEN and Nintendo made, until Sachin ran out of ideas. So then Sachin just started making classic games that they made by themselves, which is like shoot 'em ups and beat 'em ups and all these other obscure games that they had no idea what the purpose of was, but they still made them. I mean, that was their choice. If they wanted to make them, they could. So then, a little company called Color Dreams also got into that and started making the cartridges and also in black. Now these were widely popular, and a lot of them were like Baby Boomer, Captain Comic, But one that really stood out from them all was the Bible games that they made. They changed their name to Wisdom Tree and started making Bible games for the NES. They hacked the other games and turned them into Bible games illegally. How can you have Christian faith illegally? And on a video game too. That's messed up. Big time. So Color Dreams was then interfering with that by making like Sunday Fun Day and like all these others. Menace Beach, like skateboarder games. They were making all these different games and it was getting way out of hand. Well, even though Nintendo was having to deal with all this, then one more little mistake turned the whole thing lopsided. Hummer Teen. Hummer Teen started in about 1987 and went until 1998. Way after NES and Famicom. And, well, they made one of the most famous hacks of all time. They made Somari, a Sonic the Hedgehog and Mario squeezed together in a little ball, and then you get Somari. Wow, that's pretty freaking cool. The game is actually decent enough and is programmed by its own, and is the first ever Sonic hack. Ever. So then, somebody went out and made a hack of Somari, and made Family Kid? Family Kid. It was in a double pack only. It was the same people who made Aladdin 4 for the NES. So it was in a double pack. And then Sonic 3D Blast 5 came along, which was Sonic the Hedgehog on the NES, ported in all its means necessary. Then there was, tons of others. They just kept on hacking each other's games and did not know what order they were going in. And, it's very confusing. Well, most people say by most means that Somari was made by Hummer Teen, but is not 100%